as we're still doing the plastic, a friend of mine told me about a girl that was burnt when she was a young child. And the girl is extremely bright. She was in primary 6, and she was becoming an adolescent and starting to become self-aware of her body, and she was starting to feel intimidated and bullied. And to be frank with you, I had not yet, yes, I had said I want to serve, and we're going to serve through the non-profit organization, but we had not yet gotten a sense of direction of what we should do. So we had opened up all doors to anything we could do to serve. And I remember telling my friend, you know what, let this child come and we see what we can do. And to be honest with you, I didn't have a penny for it, but you just take a step blindly and say, well, whatever it is, as long as I've tried. So I said, okay, you know what, let the child come and we'll find out the bills. So maybe I could start saving my little money, and maybe one day when we have the money, we can help. So I remember going to Kirudu Hospital, and we're in the line and in children's burns ward, and there were so many children who were burned, and I just could not imagine it. And I kept asking myself, so what happened to the child? This child, was it an accidental burn? Was it child abuse? And you see these children in pain and you try to ask what happened, and they can't explain much. Why? Because first, they're in pain. Maybe it was accidental, maybe it wasn't, but maybe the perpetrators of such cruel acts are the ones that have brought them to hospital to get treatment, so they're not going to talk to a stranger about it. And partly I was left traumatized. I just wanted to do something about it, and I just didn't know what I could do then. So, and also, we're in this line of, wanting to get at least cosmetology surgery for this child whose mouth and nose were burnt. The doctors will tell us, there's so many children that have burns, and cosmetology surgery is not a priority because, well, at least they're surviving. What about these others with these limited resources? What can we do for them? So in that line of, and I was about to give up, and then I see a friend of mine. I was shocked and I was so excited. And she comes and tells me, Spacey, what are you doing here? And I explained to her the whole story. And it so happened that she was an intern, and she told me, you know what? I am an intern. I am the one that writes the names of the people that are going to be operated on. And for everything that she did for me in school, I am going to make this girl, I'll write her as number 2 on the list. First, I didn't expect that we would actually have immediate for it. And she said, we're going to, this can be free, we're going to go through under this and this, and we're going to work on the child. It's then that I knew that that was God's grace that brought us there. Because I came with nothing, and then to find somebody. A brief story about my friend, the intern doctor. I was in school with her. I'm not bragging, but I had a lot of things in school. My parents would keep checking on me and, providing foodstuffs. That friend of mine wasn't exactly in the same position. Her parents didn't show up much at school, so my eats are your eats, and my money is your money. So during break time, if you don't have what to eat, please come and pick on this. This is where I keep my money. You can take a little of it, and I did it out of not expecting anything in return. But then look at, after this number of years, I find her, and she is the doctor or the intern doctor that writes the list of the people who are going to be operated on, and helped us, gave us a bed, and everything was settled. And after, checking on the girl's health and everything, they said, she'll be scheduled for this, and then she was worked on. So that is where we get the campaigns of when burns are not an accident in our children. We teamed up with Aisha Nabukera, a survivor of child abuse burns, and she just graduated recently. So we asked her to motivate the children that have been burnt due to child abuse to make them stay in school. As an organization, we fight hard for these children's rights. So as we went on, like I still told you, we were still trying to figure out our vision, what we're going to do to serve, even with a burning desire to serve. You have to have a vision, you have to know what you want to do. So for the beginning, we were doing this, to just be of service. And the Creative Youth Agency is a non-profit organization for the youth, by the youth, and it's diverse. So we open our hands to be of service to our communities. So as we did that, we got into the campaign of inclusive education for children with disabilities. And to tell you a small story, when I was younger, I was at church and I saw children that were blind. And I had never seen any blind person. So I took interest and then asked the lady, why don't these children see? Why do they hold each other as they're moving? What happened? What caused it with so much concern? I remember her telling me they're blind children. And I asked her, what can we do? And she looked at me and said, just give them sweets next Sunday. And I told her, where are you located? And she gave me directions, but she didn't think I would go and meet the children. So it was around the period of elections, countrywide elections, and at my family, at my home, before elections, my parents always stock food, rice, peas, beans, because maybe of inflation. So I said, from that, I'm going to start stealing this food from home and I'll take to them. So I remember when I was at home and my parents had gone to work, I got polythene and packed in rice, peas and everything, and then tied off, got onto a bike and then went and met the children. So I remember going there and we were excited, and she asked me, where are you getting these things from? And I told her, oh, it's my parents that gave me these things. So she was happy to get to know that somebody, was there for them. And she actually opened up and told me, as a child, I didn't think you would bring more than sweets. But yes, we are in need of foodstuffs. Most of the children with disabilities sometimes is accompanied by poverty, and they are not able to pay school fees, and sometimes we run out of food and we need the food. So I kept stealing from, the sacks at home. And I remember sometime my mom asked, but what's happening to the sugar, to the rice? And I was the first suspect, and they asked me, so Spacey, tell us, where is this food going? And I remember saying, Mom, I'm trying to learn how to cook. So I try to cook the rice. When it's bad, I throw it away. And my parents figured that I had a flame in me, and they didn't want to, shatter it. And also, at the way I've been raised, my voice is valued. They listen to it. And, as part of nurturing a child, if you want to empower them entirely, you leave them to make their mistakes, you leave them to fail, and you give them their space. And that is what my parents did. But I remember my mom asked me a question, so Spacey, you mean you do not know how many teaspoons of sugar you put in, the tea? And I kept quiet and brushed it off. So they suspected that maybe she has an enterprise, or maybe she has a small shop where she's starting to, check these things. And my mom told me, Spacey, I've heard you telling your young brothers about Bill Gates, how he sold off the mother's furniture. I don't know if that is true, but please sell off the food, whatever you want to do with the food, but do not sell off my cutlery and my furniture. And I said, okay, mommy. So one day we're at church, and then this lady of the blind children sees my parents and comes with excitement. And she tells my parents, thank you so much, thank you. And, I was scared, and I kept praying to God and said, please, God, please let her not mention this, please. But of course she said it. She said, thanks for the foodstuffs, thanks for this and this and this. And my parents were like, which foodstuffs? you know, and they after figured it out, and then they said, oh, really? If she's helping, that is great, and they were proud of me. I could see it. And of course, they also extended help. So that is how I started this Blind Children Inclusivity of Education. It was a history way back, forming an organization to be of service to people. They are my special people. They are people that I had thought about, and I said, now that we have the organization, I'll get more people on board to help you. We shall tell people about you, increase acceptance. And when you get to know the stories behind the problems they face, the poverty issues, the discrimination, you know, as you interact with these children, you get to know that there's some cold-hearted parents out there that mistreat these children, that hide them from the world. That is what we're trying to fight as an organization. We believe for the people that are handicapped, mentally they're stable and they can learn. Why don't you expose them to such things? Why don't you teach them such things? Why don't you why don't you give them an education? There are people like us. And I remember us going to the airport and the zoo with these children, and the people that we interacted with kept saying, but why are you making these blind children move? They don't see anything. And you know, deep down, because first we knew the children that are in school that are blind are examining these things, so why wouldn't they experience them? So we took them to the airport too, and you know, they were excited, they were happy, because most of them at their homes are hidden, which is actually not fair. We took them and they experienced it. So I remember them entering into the bus, and then the airport buses, and they're very excited and said, so we are in an airplane, and we all kept quiet, and then we're saying, should we tell them they're not enough, they're in a bus? Should we tell them they're, and you know, and we told them, you know what? You are in a bus, but when you work harder, when you stay in school, one day you're going to fly in the airplanes. And it was a beautiful journey, but also it was an emotional trip for me, because we kept explaining to them animals in the zoo. You know, we'd say a lion has fur, and maybe try to put it in their language, because they say, what is fur? And you say, maybe hairs around the head, and then they touch their hair, and then they say, oh, this is the hair, and then, you know, it was hard for us to explain. But again, they were excited because, you know, they've also moved around. They've, you know, and they praise God more. And also they have a high sense of imagination and hearing. So we took them to the water body, Lake Victoria, and we told them, we explained to them, you know, what the lake is, and then the waves. And when they would master that the water is coming, the waves, they would even tell us before that, you know what, a wave is coming, because their hearing is quite high. And would say, no, there's no wave, because we'd see it, and eventually a wave would come. That is how much you sit down with, after getting such an experience, you sit down and you give God the gratitude. You thank God for your life. You dedicate yourself to helping people that are less advantaged. There isn't anything that is as fulfilling as that. So that is how we started the campaign of inclusive education with children with disabilities.